What's up, everyone? So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why I personally think that Final Fantasy XIV is the best online game you can play at this moment. Now, Final Fantasy XIV, for anyone who doesn't know, is an online MMORPG out of Japan. Now, this means that the story is very heavy in the game. You can't really progress through the game unless you complete the story, which is daunting. As a one-year player myself for the game, I found the story to drag on at parts. It took me a while to get through, and honestly, I was starting around the same time Shadowbringers, the most recent expansion, was coming out, so I was really hyped to get in there, watching streams of people playing it, not really breaking any story, but watching streams of people playing it. I wanted to get involved, so it made it very hard for me to go through the story. That being said, this is probably the best game you can play. At this point in time, it's for an MMO. If you like PvE, if you're looking for a PvP game, this is not for you. And maybe unless you're playing on Japan servers where PvP is very, very well done and very structured. On most other data centers, it's not. You're kind of just running around. You might get a few pre-mates that are pretty good, but that's about it. With that being said, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, click the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think. You can also find me on Twitter at @awifia. You'll see that down here in the description box below, as well as my current setup for my computer, as well as some game time cards for Final Fantasy and the complete edition, which includes the base game and all games. Please feel free to click the Amazon affiliate links below, and they'll take you right there. With that being said, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is not for everyone, as I've said. This game is very heavily focused on story and PvE, player versus environment. Now, the PvP, as I said, is fun. I have played PvP a few times. But let me talk about PvP before I begin anything else, because that is a key point for a lot of people who play MMOs. Now, in PvP, your classes change entirely. You're down to, I believe, 8 skills when you PvP. Those skills are completely different, or act different at the very least, from what you have in your normal kit during the game. Now, everyone is like this. Healers are more focused on healing, but they're also really hard to kill. But you're also sunk up to 80 with everyone else, so nobody's left out. So this makes PvP a lot different, and not for everyone. A lot of people feel that the classes get neutered when you do this. Personally, for me, I like this. This puts the game on a very even keel, in my opinion. I find that it's just a more fun experience. There's not a whole lot of balancing that needs done in comparison to going in with the skills you currently have for PvE that now need to be balanced with a separate stat for PvP, a la World of Warcraft. Now, with that being said, there's a few PvP maps that are very fun. Capture the flag style maps. I believe there's a deathmatch style map that I have not played, but there's also Capture the Points, which is the current roulette, and Frontlines being the PvP roulette. Capture the Point is a lot of fun for me. You play with one of 3 teams going in of 8 people apiece, and you just try and capture points and kill the others that are trying to capture it as well. It's very fun, and it works out very well. But now onto the PvE side of the game. I fell in love with this game in a way that I have not done since I have played Star Wars Galaxies many years ago. Now, I know some of you have played Star Wars Galaxies or currently play the emulator, but for me it's not the same thing. Star Wars Galaxies for me was home. That's where I felt comfortable. I made a lot of good friends there who to this very day I talk to in Discord, and I'm part of their guilds, and I even join them once in a while on the emulator servers. And I've played a lot of MMOs since. I've played Guild Wars 1 and 2, City of Heroes, World of Warcraft for God knows how long. I've played, I think I played Bless Online for a little bit. Don't play that game. Arcade Unchained, Star Wars Knights of the Republic, or not Knights of the Republic, that's the single player version. My bad. Star Wars, the Old Republic, the MMO version. I've played all of those. I've played so many more somewhere in the middle. I probably have a ton in my Steam library. And not a single one has made me feel like I'm home. Not even Classic WoW. I didn't feel comfortable in any of them. When I started playing this game, I immediately felt like I was home. I felt like I had a place that I could log into and enjoy what I do on a daily basis, and I do a lot. I find this game to be amazing. And here's why. So, in Star Wars Galaxies, and I'm going to use that as a great reference because it was a true sandbox MMO. In Star Wars Galaxies, you were never locked into a single class. If I wanted to go from rifles to pistols or combine them or be some kind of melee that makes armor, I could do that. In Final Fantasy XIV, the best part of this game, the part that I love the absolute most, is that one character can play everything. Yeah, I can be everything. I can be a summoner. I can be a scholar. I can be a tank as a gunbreaker or a paladin. I can be a rogue DPS. I can be a culinarian and make food. I can be a tailor. I can gather. I can fish. I can do all of this. I believe there's something like 18 combat classes in the game right now, and more to be added, I'm assuming, when the next expansion releases. There's also a ton of crafting and 3 gathering, and they are all their own game inside of one. Not a single style of gameplay makes you feel like you're kind of just grinding something to grind it. In Star Wars Galaxies, your crafting classes felt strong. It felt like you were making that class and building something that could be used by the community. Let's harken over to World of Warcraft for a minute. When you craft something, you just kind of grab a few materials, throw it together, and now I have this shirt. In Final Fantasy, it's more like Star Wars Galaxies with crafting, where you have your subcomponents, your most basic components, really. Stuff you like, some wool and some water. And you can have a normal quality or a high quality. High quality automatically boosts the ability for the item to come out as a high quality item, and you can craft to that before you finish making the item. Once that quality gauge gets maxed, then you go for your progress gauge, but you have to worry about the wear on the item you're making. It can cause the crafting to fail if you hit that 40 or 60 or 80, whatever the limit would be on that item. And when you make the item, that could be another subcomponent to a whole other item above that. I think during my level 60, and I say 60 because I'm a level 60 tailor working on it still, I haven't dedicated enough time to crafting. I've been doing too much gathering. I love gathering right now. But on my 60 tailor, I'm trying to craft, I believe it was Rainbow Boots of Healing for one of the quests, and I think there was 2 or 3 levels deep worth of subcomponents that I had to craft. And it's a great way to teach you how to craft these items for long term, for endgame, for people somewhere in the middle working their way through the story, and especially the 70 through 80 grind, where you don't have a story if it's an alt character and you don't have that kind of gear coming in. You don't have as many dungeons as you do, so you would need to get gear via the market board, which is their auction house. So that alone makes this game, for me, one of the most fun experiences for it. Now, let's talk about the story of this game. The story is long. It is very, very long. The biggest downside to the game, which is being fixed in patch 5.3 coming up here sometime in summer, is there's a lot of quests. A lot of quests between the base game, A Realm Reborn, and Heavensward, the first expansion. I think there's like 100 quests between there, and a lot of those are filler or could be combined in a single quest. They said for the 2.0, the ARR, Realm Reborn version of the game, that they are cutting out, I believe it was 13 or 18% of all quests. Now, right now, we're not too certain if that means they're cutting out for the entirety of it, or if it's just the 2.1, the 2.5, which would be the content that bridges the expansion to the previous expansion and or base game. I'm assuming, most people seem to be, that this is just going to be in that section there. It may be in some other piece. We're not sure yet. That's something that's going to be figured out in time to come as we get more and more information on patch 5.3. We do know that they're adding the Crystal Tower storyline though, which is currently a side story and raid system, but that's going to be added into the game as part of the story. So that kind of evens out the amount of quests, kind of keeps it the same. But I do want to say that that piece is a large grind, and that is what kills a lot of people. So there's two big factors that slow people down to play this game. The first of which is getting from 1 to 30. It feels slow. You don't have a whole lot of abilities. And you're currently just going around, you're killing things, you're doing your main scenario quest. Once main scenario quest gets to level 30, you should probably be a little bit ahead of your level by that point as well. But once the main scenario quest gets to level 30, things start to open up and you start to get some off-global cooldown abilities, OGCDs, as they're called. These abilities make your class feel a lot faster, as now you're not just hitting 1 or 2 buttons, you have to weave in a third one. As you get to level 40, the story really begins to take form, is the best thing I can say about that. It's already taken shape, but it's now becoming something you can identify with. The story's getting more interesting, getting deeper, and a lot more fun. Once you get past that, you are now level 50, going through the intermediate content between Heaven's Ward and Realm Reborn, where it's a little bit of a slog. It really is, and this is a part that I had a whole big problem with, because a lot of it didn't feel right. Now, we don't know how they're fixing that, as I've said, with 5.3. And we'll find out more details as time comes, but it sounds like they're adding more incentive to just go ahead and do that rather than pay the $7 for the skip potion to go straight to Heaven's Ward after the base game. Now, the Heaven's Ward story is by far amazing. There's nothing more I can say about that. The story, the content, the scenery, it is absolutely wonderful and beautiful. Gothic architecture, all about the battle with Ishgard and the dragons. I never felt like I was taking too long in the story. I always felt that the story is properly moving forward with no filler. It was fantastic, and Square Enix, from what I thought, couldn't top it. From there you move into the pieces between Heaven's Ward and Stormblood, the next expansion. There's not a whole lot of quests there. There's less than there are from the main game, but more than there are between Shadowbringers, or between Stormblood and the most recent expansion, Shadowbringers. Not a lot though, and every quest feels like it's going somewhere. They're not too long, but they're not too short either. You're not doing these weird fetch quests and gathering quests for no reason. When I say that, there's actually a quest where you just go clear out a nest somewhere between Heaven's Ward and A Realm Reborn. That's not here. That kind of stuff's gone. It is story progression quests the entire way, with good dungeons and good trials. You move into Stormblood. Stormblood's good. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed playing in Stormblood. It's Asian themed. It's about freeing people in the Far East from the Empire that you've been fighting back in ARR. Now, I don't honestly recall a whole lot of the story, so I can't give you a decent synopsis about that. I enjoyed it, but it didn't permeate with me like Heaven's Ward did. You move into the next part of the game, where it's the content between Shadowbringers and Stormblood. Closing out the Stormblood arc felt good. It felt right. It felt like the game was where it needs to be, and almost feels like it's set up for a whole other expansion afterwards, or a whole other expansion after Shadowbringers, I should say. Now you get into Shadowbringers. Wow. God. And I thought Heaven's Word was good. Just thinking about Shadowbringers honestly is driving chills up my body. That story, those characters, the stakes, the score, I can't say enough about it. It was truly the best experience I've ever had in a story in my entire life. I am 31 years old and I have played more RPGs than I can possibly think of. And I would say that if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII and you think that was a good story, you haven't seen a good story. Because I've seen great stories with Final Fantasy VII, and don't get me wrong, I'm right with you. I'm with everybody out there who loves that story. But Shadowbringers is better, in my opinion. Shadowbringers brought something to the table that I don't think any MMO was able to bring. I didn't think it was ever possible in an MMO to actually make someone cry. I cried. I cried in it. It was strong. It actually pulled on my body to a level that I didn't think an MMO would ever have that ability to. The cutscene before the final battle. Oh my gosh. That cutscene was so strong and so well done, and I have to thank Yoshi P and the entire team that works on Final Fantasy XIV over at Square Enix for what you made. You made a game that I will never stop playing now. That expansion, if I could just go back and relive that expansion again and again and again, I would. I've considered making alternate characters and buying a level skip and story skip just to go to Shadowbringers again and do it again. Now I know there's New Player Plus, I could go back and do it, but it's not the same. I want to re-experience it. It was amazing. And I think I've talked enough about the story, because I could go on about Shadowbringers all day and how absolutely amazing that story is, and just how it made me feel as a gamer. But I need to keep talking about why I think you should play this. And the final thing, the final reason I feel like this game is the best MMO on the marketplace right now, and the game that you should be playing, is quite simply because of the community. Now, I've seen people say this community does have toxicity in it, leveling up. I had a discussion with a free company member the other day. A free company is a guild version of guilds in Final Fantasy XIV. He had met a lot of toxic people when he was leveling, and I do feel bad for him for that, because that should not be the case. I found the community to be very accepting. More so than really any other community, next to Star Wars Galaxies. That's the only other community that I've found to be as accepting and as helpful and as caring as this game. The level of toxicity is low, and you can really report people for things and they will take action on them. They will actually review things. I had a dungeon last night. There was a alliance raid actually, where there was a new tank. He was level 55, and I don't think he knew too much of what he was doing yet. And I understand that. You're still new. This is probably your first alliance raid. You've probably never done the Crystal Tower storyline yet. And at 55, there is no other alliance raids yet. And he was pulling creeps, or pulling the boss even, in a way that somebody in my group didn't like it, and he was getting pretty nasty with him. I actually threatened to report him, and then told the alliance to report him for harassment. I actually spoke up and said, he's a sprout. A sprout is a little icon you get on your character when you're a new player up until a certain point, and then it goes away. And I said, he's a sprout. He's a level 55 max. All of his classes, nothing is higher than 55, except for this tank class, which was warrior. And I got into a little bit of an argument with this guy, and I eventually said, let's just stop. leave him go, let him learn, be constructive. And actually, everyone else in the alliance actually agreed with me. And in between fights, even though it's a level 50 dungeon and we could just blaze our way through it pretty easy, the rest of the alliance, the other tanks, taught him how to tank better. They told him things he can do, which I thought was amazing. We didn't have to. This is a pickup group, daily alliance roulette, where you get just some bonus XP for finishing, but people cared enough to tell him what he could and couldn't do, and what he should and shouldn't do. And that I found was absolutely amazing. So, with that being said, Final Fantasy XIV Online is an amazing game with an amazing community and a story that will grip you into tears and laughter also. It's a game that you can really be what you want to be. If it's a class, go ahead and play it. It's a game that I think a lot of people need to try, because some of us were all looking for a home away from home when it comes to video games. And for me, I found it here, in this community, in this game. This amazing title that has brought me so much joy in the past year of my life, especially in the last few months with the global issues happening. So, with that, that's why I think you should play Shadowbringers. No, play the whole game. Don't just play Shadowbringers. You want your backstory. But play the game and get the Shadowbringers, and I promise you won't be upset. So I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you liked hearing a little bit about the game and why I think that you should play this game. Now, if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. If you are looking for a game time card, there's down in my comment section an Amazon link to the game time cards on their website, as well as a full complete edition of the game. Feel free to click that link, go through and pick it up. I also stream every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday from 7 p.m. until about 10, sometimes 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be happy to see you in my stream. You can find all the links to that down here, again, in the description box. Until next time, have fun, stay safe, and keep on gaming. See ya!